What is up, guys, and welcome to the Manor. It is a reiteration number 3. This is Manor 3.0, if you will, or 1.3, whichever way you want to look at that. We are here tonight with a very special guest, Malcolm Lay. How are you doing, good sir?
Um, I'm doing pretty good. I guess you could say it's the third take of the manor.
I would say it's probably the third take of the Manor, but no. In all seriousness, I'm very excited to have this person here. Very excited to discuss the movies that she has placed upon our panel to represent herself, and that's Rachel Silvestrini. How are you doing tonight? And are you excited?
I'm doing just great. I'm always excited to talk movies, and obviously talk about myself. But I mean, this is gonna be a blast. I'm really excited for this show. This is gonna get real personal real quick.
Yes. I never thought of it as that point and take. I thought it was pretty funny. I was like, yeah, this sounds like a real fun idea. And then I thought about it a little bit more and like, this is going to get personal for some people. And I love it. But I want them to feel comfortable at the same time. I want you to feel completely comfortable. So if we ask something that you don't want to answer, just say next or something. We'll make it like that. So how this show works, guys, how it did work in the past is I had a group of panelists that they would come put up 1 to 2 movies. I would put up 3 movies, and then we talk about it. But I wanted to kind of make it a little different. And this isn't just for Schmodown competitors. This is for everybody in the Schmodown world. If you are a part of a reaction crew, if you're a part of the crew that works in the Schmodown, I would love to have you on here, managers, everybody. I want to get it to where people, you know, who you see on film. Much respect to Call to Action. You know who they interview. They interview about the Schmodown. I want to interview the person and find out the person behind the person behind the character, if you will. And like I said, it's a little bit more of a different take. But Rachel, you gave us 5, I want to say, phenomenal films because I really enjoy a lot of these films. One probably people are going to say is a guilty pleasure and should say a guilty pleasure. But I like the movie, but we won't get to it that fast. So I want to go over the first movie on the list here that we have, which is The Court Jester. So this movie, when you put it on your list, I've never seen this movie. And
not a lot of people our age have, honestly.
you were like,
there's so few people. I end up talking about this movie with like my friends' parents or grandparents. Like my friends never know this movie, so it's not unusual.
When you told me about it, you were like, it's on Amazon. Because I was like, I gotta just find a place to check it out because I like to make sure that I watch all the movies so that way I know about them. And something that may be very weird is I got a very much a Robin Hood Men in Tights feel from this movie, and I'm like, is that where he got it from? But Rachel, starting off, where did you see this movie for the first time?
I grew up with this movie. It's really interesting. My mom exposed me to music, and my dad was the one who exposed me to movies. And my dad, as much of a typical man's man that he was, really loved musicals. So I was raised on like westerns and musicals. So it's a very weird juxtaposition. But it was one of the movies I remember watching as a child and just absolute, like, I have this incredible love for all things Danny Kaye. The man is magical. I'm pretty sure that if Walt Disney was to invent a human being, it would have just been Danny Kaye.
Who say they didn't? I'll just say.
I mean, they happened right around the same time. So, but Danny Kaye is so exceptionally talented, and he is so good at pulling you into a story and making you care about the characters and making you care about the situation and just kind of forgetting everything else. And this movie was still to this day, I quote it daily.
You're muted a little bit, Doug.
Yes, I'm muted. Yeah. I did not want to. I did not want to cough on screen while you were talking. This movie, it's very reminiscent of like old Hollywood, and it definitely. So, with what you are very strong in the Schmodown, I definitely saw where this movie kind of maybe played a part in that whole aspect. Um, so your dad introduced you to this film, so that's really cool. I love that whole backstory about when people's parents influence them a little bit into that field. So uh maybe what for me, my favorite scene is the ending when the bad guys, everybody is singing praise to the new king. I'm dying. I'm like, wait, didn't you just try to kill the baby and now you're singing his praises?
All right.
For
So a
you,
little bit of
what?
backstory. So basically, this whole movie takes place in a medieval type setting, and it starts off with the ruling family having been killed off. It's all very like Anastasia, except that the true supporters of the family smuggled out the baby. So there is one left of the line, and he has a birthmark called the purple pimpernel, which is a purple flower, and the birthmark is on his butt. And so, in order to prove to people that the royal family is still around, these now annexed group of people that are being hunted by the guy who took over are hiding in the woods and like bringing people in and showing this little baby's butt to people that has a purple flower on it. And yeah, so it's swashbuckling. There's Angela Lansbury plays a princess and she is smoking hot. My favorite character is Griselda. Her, of course, what princess doesn't need a witch? Who it's so complicated and so ridiculous that like trying to explain it is going to take like just go watch the movie. It's so funny. It's so much fun. There's Danny Kaye gets hit. Jester, who is like actually an assassin. It's just insane. It's so much fun. There's singing and dancing and I can't even like. It's so much fun.
No, absolutely. I sat down and I was like, my roommates came out and was like, "What are you watching?" I'm like, "This movie's just fun. This movie's just fun. It's literally just a fun movie, and I really enjoyed it." I guess a question that I have for you. I mean, I'm sure you showed this movie to people. What was maybe one of your favorite reactions from somebody that you watched it with?
I showed this to a friend of mine in high school who was very much a dude bro. He played football and ate ribs by like the 3 dozen. Like he was just a dude. And I was like, he came over and I was watching it. I just started it. And he came over and when he sat down, he's like, "What is this?" I'm like, just sit and watch it. And my dad walked by and he's like, "Oh, I love this movie." And my friend's like, "All right, I'll watch it." Because he got the seal of approval from my dad. My dad was like the coolest guy that all my guy friends ever knew. And so he sat down and watched it and he started belly laughing at the whole what was it? I whistle when I hum and I hum when I whistle, like that whole song where he's like coming through. It's insane. It's he loved it so much, and it's the vessel with the pestle whole line. Like my sisters and I can still recite that to this day. Like we'll start it and be like, "Wait, were you doing version 1 or version 2?" Because there's 2 different versions, and like we'll just go off and just recite this movie, and it's so much. It's just fun. Like it's fun.
Yeah, I was when I sat down and watched it. I was 100% in when he was doing the Black Fox mask and
No,
with
I'm the
with his
fox.
with his friends from the circus. It was great. I was dying, and I was like, I'm in 100%. I think a lot of people, when they look at movies like this, they don't see the appeal because it's a classic movie. A lot of people, when it's pre 1980s, they turn off sometimes, unless you're Caleb Boatman. Shout out to Caleb Boatman because you're the man. But no, I very much I saw this and I was like, I can see why this is important to Rachel. It's like a nice little time capsule for yourself.
It
Obviously,
really is. I mean,
um,
it's a musical without being like every time that somebody opens their mouth, they're singing a new song. It's not that. All of the songs are very perfectly woven into the storyline, and they're never like it doesn't take away from the movie. And that I think is what kind of deters people from seeing it, knowing that it's a musical. They're like, oh my god, people are just going to be singing at me for an hour and a half, and it's like it's not that movie.
yeah,
Also, it is a classic movie, but it is in color, so it's not black and white.
there you go.
And I
It's
actually
not
love the
black and white, guys.
colors.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
it's
I thought all the costumes were very inventive with the colors and how they use the color scheme. The golden key that they're trying to steal is amazing. Um, one of my favorite scenes in this movie was when I'm trying to remember her name. The king is with her.
Jane.
Jane, and she talks about her brothers and her uncles getting this disease, and then he just starts backing away, and she gets closer. And she's like, "Oh, it's okay." I'm like, "This is great! Like, this is exactly what you want to see." Like I said, I think this was a perfect first movie on your list because it kind of gives us right in the kind of like a bird's eye view of who Rachel Silvestrini is just watching
Kind of,
this movie, especially because a lot of people know you, like I said, know you as the Disney person. This is very much a Disney movie without being a Disney movie.
Very much so. I also got the privilege to talk to Leonard Maltin about this. I was riding in with him and his wife Alice and Jesse to this like meetup that they were doing between the Maltins had this thing where new writers would come in and like write for the website, and then they were teaming up with Stardust. And so they were doing this like whole visual media versus written media like conglomeration meetup at Scum and write our favorite movie. And I was like, I don't know what my favorite movie is. And I started talking with Leonard, and he was like, well, it's obviously The Court Jester. And so it sparked all of these amazing conversations with these people who were like, I have no idea what that movie is, and I like review movies for a living. So what is this? Is it super indie? And I'm like, kind of. It's like 60, 70 years old.
It's the indie before indie.
Yeah, it was great. And like I got to sit back and talk with Alice about how we both like had crushes on Danny Kaye growing up, and like it was just one of the most wonderful, wholesome conversations of all time. She is my hero. I want to be her when I grow up. It's okay. But yeah, this movie, definitely give it a try. I highly, highly recommend it. I mean, if it's not for you, it's not for you, but it is 100% like spot on who I am. So
Nice. All right, so let's bring up the next movie that we have, which is an all-out comedy, and it's Out Cold. I love this movie. This was my first gateway into Zach Galifianakis, and it has one of my favorite scenes ever to have Zach Galifianakis in it, where he's passed out drunk and they're spinning the car, and I'm like, that's so great. All right.
My mother literally will run, like she'll hear, like we've played it in our house so many times that like she would hear that the movie is on and like run downstairs and be like, did it happen yet? Because she will make us put that scene over and over and over again. It is the funniest. My mother is so like, she's so wonderful, but she's like a little straight-laced, but she loves that scene. It is like you don't have to watch anything about the movie. You have to know nothing about it, but if you watch that like 30 seconds, you're dying.
Completely, because like a lot of people know who Zach Galifianakis is now, but
yeah,
nobody knew who he was back then. It was like, and then
it was his first movie.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of funny because like I didn't even realize it was Zach Galifianakis until I watched it after the Hangover movies. I was like, wait, rewind.
Mm-hmm.
What? No, but okay. So going into Out Cold, where did you first see this movie? Where who introduced this movie to you, or did you get?
I believe this movie came out in 2000, and I was working at AMC Saratoga. I was 16 years old, and I got to screen this movie, and I walked out of there with tears streaming down my face. I was laughing so hard. It was so funny. And then years later, I actually realized that it's actually loosely based on Casablanca, which is
I've heard that.
Like when you hear that and then you go back and watch it again, you're like, oh, I get it. Like the lead character's name is Rick. So the whole concept is that it's this tiny little ski town in Alaska, and this guy comes in to try and buy it and like commercialize it, whatever. It's hilarious. But one of his daughters ends up being this girl that like she's the girl that got away for Rick, and they met at Pedro Horny's in Cancun, Mexico, and she ran off and disappeared, and he never saw her again until she walked into, and all the ski towns in all the world, she had to walk into mine. Like, there's so many little things about the movie that is like, oh, that's Casablanca, 100%. And it's so funny and it's so great. It also has Jenny from Criminal Minds that just ended. She's in that. She plays
AJ Cook, yeah.
AJ Cook. She plays Jenny. And it's just so much fun. It's got an all-star cast. Like,
it really does. It has such a great cast. Jason Landon, I love him in pretty much everything that he's ever been in. I always sometimes get them confused. It's very hard.
It's very easy to confuse them.
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes, because this movie, besides the comedy, does have a lot of heart to it. Like the speech that he gives towards the end of the movie, it's a great speech. It's got comedy in it, but it's a great speech. I mean, this movie, when you think it kicked off kind of like that 2001 comedy styling, that early 2000 comedy styling, which
Absolutely.
is some of my favorite stylings of comedy to date. I don't care what people say. 90s is great, but 2000 for me was like right where it was at. I grew up right there, so it was like, give it to me all. So who have you introduced this film to do? So you got to see the screening.
Everyone.
Early,
everyone that I can get my hands on, I'm like, you have to sit down and watch this movie. And like, this is one of those movies that is so, if you watch it, it is so insanely quotable. Like, I know y'all have listened to SCN Live and you've been hearing all of the crap that Christian has been giving me over Seize the Carp. That's because of this movie. I love this movie so much. The guy who plays Zach Galifianakis' brother is in the car talking to them, and Jason is explaining like who this girl is and like, you know, like their past relationship, and he's just an idiot, and he just goes, "Carpe the diem, man, seize the carp," like. And it's just so great. And so Ben and I were talking and we're like, that's really funny. And I'm like, yeah, Out Cold is one of my favorite movies of all time. And he's like, great, Seize the Carp. And so we jokingly put it on a list that we like submitted to Christian. And he like took us seriously, and I was never letting me forget that. Or Switchblade, which I was not the one to come up with that. But yeah, it's the, like, legitimately, I will quote this every day, and I will say this for every movie that we talk about because I speak in nothing but movie quotes. But like my sisters and I will text each other and be like, everybody Wang Chung tonight, or like that's my motto, and then they'll be like, everybody Wang Chung tonight. Like that's great. Like
so are you the older sister or the younger sister, middle sister?
I'm the middle. I'm the middle sister. My older sister and I are the ones who technically speak in like movie quotes solely.
Nice.
But yeah, like she texted me one day that she was going out, or she had gone out with a new guy the night before, and I was like, "You get STD from a polar bear?" And she's like, "Shut up!" Like,
oh man,
it's so like this movie is so great. God bless Zach Galifianakis. Thank you,
Zach Galifianakis, a national treasure. More so than Nicolas Cage.
Careful.
Listen,
close, yes.
I stand by that statement. Protect Zach Galifianakis at all costs.
Sure.
So who was maybe one of your favorite, like same question with the Court Jester, who was maybe one of your favorite reactions to this movie the first time seeing it, like seeing it through, because you saw it before everybody because you got the screening, seeing it through their eyes, like how exciting was that? Like, what was one of your favorite people to show it to?
Honestly, it was showing it to my sister because we worked. My sister Alicia, my older sister, she and I worked together at the movie theater at that time. And so I can't remember if she was screening something else or she just had the night off. But I remember coming home and being like, "We're going to see this tomorrow. Like, I don't care what you're doing. Like, we're seeing this tomorrow." And I just sat there the whole movie, just like staring at her and like waiting for her to laugh and like. I mean, she's my sister, so she laughed at everything that I laughed at, and then it just kept growing and growing, and we've just like our love for this is so deep, which is why I love Ash Crossan so much because she loves this movie just as much as I do. So like anytime that like I think she hopped on, what was it, Alamo Drafthouse LA posted something on their Twitter about like, hey, the Rowdy Cats screenings are doing really well. What other movies do you want us to do screenings of? And Ash posted before I could. She posted an Out Cold GIF, and I was like, "Yes, we need to have this happen like right now. Like I will be front row for this. Like I'll co-host it with you. I don't care. Like I have to do this. I want to be in an entire movie theater of people who have loved this movie for 20 years and just enjoy it. Like."
That'd be cool though, for like a 20-year, just go into the Alamo with a bunch of people. Even if you
That
get
makes me
like
feel so
the
old.
cast together, could you imagine
I
something
would
like that?
lose my effing mind. I would be so happy. My birthday's in April, just saying. Just put that out there into the universe. No, I love this movie. It's one of those movies that if I can put that on in the background and just like every now and then, like I'll hear lines and just laugh because I know what's coming up or whatever. But like this is a movie that I know every word to, forwards and backwards. Like I was in the car by myself and a Billy Joel song came on and cracked myself up by myself. There was nobody around and I'm like,
You broke up a little bit. You said Billy Joel song came on the radio.
Oh, Billy Joel song came on the radio and it was Don't Go Changin'. And I was like, his last words were from a Billy Joel song? And then I just cracked myself up and I was completely by myself. And I'm like, that's me. That's how big of a nerd and ridiculous and awkward I am. I will literally quote movies to myself to make myself laugh.
But that's a great. Let's take that for a moment. Like let's on. You brought it up, but like some of the best levity moments that you can have are with yourself, just remembering really positive things, even if it's from a movie. So it's always good while while it's a nerdy thing that most of us do, it's still a great quality because not a lot of people do that. Like thinking back to like some of my favorite comedies, it's outdated now a lot, but American Pie, there's things in American Pie.
Funny.
Listen, I think of Blink 182 all the time when I'm thinking of, and the monkey. I'm like, where'd the monkey come from? I'm just saying. And I die laughing, and I love that about that. Like movies can do that for people, like not like a lot of other things. Like for me with music, there's music that I listen to when I want to be happy and when I want to be sad. But there's
100%.
movies that I'll put up on, even in my head sometimes. I'll just play back scenes if I just want a good laugh. So that is completely okay.
Yeah, there are many times when I'm having conversations with somebody I work with or a friend or anything is going on, and I will literally like just say a quote from a movie and just start laughing, and they're like, Are you okay? And I'm like, I'm great. I'm also hilarious, just so you know.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love the looks that you get when you give people, like when you're trying to play off a quote and they don't know where it's from, and it just kind of makes you laugh a little bit more. It's like you don't.
But when they laugh for the right reason and they recognize the quote, it's one of those magical moments in your life where you're like, you're a friend. Like, we're now friends. Like, I don't care what's going on. That love for that movie will connect you forever. And I'm very much like that with what you're saying about like when you're happy or sad or whatever, like you go to that. I'm very much like that with movies, music, and food. Like, if I'm feeling a very particular way, I'm like, okay, I need something, whether to eat, to listen to, or to watch, but it has to fit this specific hole in my life right now, and I want it to fit there. And I will scroll for an hour through my hard drive or through Netflix or Apple TV. Like, I don't care what it is. Like, I have to find it, and it gets so frustrating sometimes. But then there are days that I'm like, you know what? I just want a good double feature, so I'll put on Out Cold and Grind. Because
such a good movie. She comes with the twofer. Grind is like one of my favorite skateboarding movies of all time. It's not a real skateboarding movie.
It is just one of the best comedies of all time. That movie is so much fun. Honorable mention, by the way.
Honorable mention. It's a great honorable mention.
Guys, if you haven't seen Grind, track it down. Find it anywhere you can. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll figure out how to Dropbox it to you. But oh my god, it's literally like a quest movie with 4 guys trying to be discovered for skateboarding. And this happened in the early 2000s again because there's no iPhones, there's no like Twitter that they contact. Like it's one of those movies that could only be made in that time. Because otherwise technology just destroys the whole
Plus,
concept.
you get a person that's parodying Matthew McConaughey in it, so it's great.
Woo!
Is your sister a clown?
I'm in love with clowns, man. What can I say?
What can I say? I hate clowns. Get out of here. For anybody that doesn't know those references, go watch Grind. I very much. This conversation is great.
There's a lizard in my pants. It's just so good. Like, I legitimately can't listen to a few songs without wanting to like play that movie. Like, every time I hear "This is the jam for all the fellas," I'm like, I know this dance. Like,
and it's got one of my favorite like used songs in it. So like, it's a win. Win automatically on soundtracks. We actually haven't talked about soundtracks yet. Because we got the Court Jesters, but Out Cold has a very solid soundtrack.
Yes, it most certainly does.
Very solid.
Very, very early 2000s, like punk rock music. Oh my god, it is one of the best. Like, there's Sum 41 playing when they're doing the midnight mountain run for King of the Mountain. I remember watching that movie, and then I ended up on tour. I ended up on Warped Tour with Sum 41, and I like went up to Derek one day, and I was like, "Hey, I think we were at catering or something, or the barbecue after the show," and I went up to him and I'm like, "Hey, by the way, your song is in one of my favorite movies." And he's like, "What?" And I'm like, "You guys are in Out Cold." He's like, "What? You like that movie?" I'm like, No. I love that movie. And we like bonded. I love that movie.
Like, I mean, it's got one of my favorite Jimmy Eat World songs on it of all time.
Told you I could play that song.
Listen, music. I'm an emotional guy when it comes to music. Jimmy Eat World ripped my soul apart. But no, the soundtrack is great on this. It's good. Just like Grind, honorable mention, but like you can listen to those soundtracks.
I think Grind has one of the best soundtracks of the early 2000s. It ends with a used song. Like, come on. It's got Less Than Jake in the credits. Who else is on there? Jesus.
There's Shinedown is on there.
No, Shinedown is in the movie.
They're on the soundtrack too.
Well, yes, but like they're in the movie. Like, they're playing at the last skating event in Santa Monica, which is actually, it's funny when Riley was talking about how he's friends with their bassist or guitarist. I was like, yeah. What?
And Kate throwing out that she's friends with the drummer of MCR. I was like, what?
Oh, yeah. Those guys are real sweet. I once sat next to, it was 4th of July in Fresno on Warped Tour, and I was walking through a bus city and I saw this like sweet little figure sitting in front of one of the buses and the headlights were on. And I looked down and there's Gerard just sitting in front of his tour bus painting an octopus. And I like sat down with him for like half an hour. I was so drunk. And he was not, because we sat down there and we chatted for like a good half hour. And I like really like he painted this really beautiful octopus, and we just sat there and he was like, okay, I'm gonna go on the bus. I'm like, okay, bye. Like kept walking. Like they're the sweetest boys ever.
Oh, they're
Nice.
great.
They're amazing.
Yeah. Okay. So, any other things that you want to talk about out cold about? We knew your favorite reaction was with your sister. You also said your mom likes this movie.
No, my mom loves this
movie.
movie. Like I literally when I went to move out the second time, because I moved to LA when I was 19 or when I was 20. And then I moved back when I was 25 because her dad had passed away and I wanted to go and help her. Like it was a really emotional time. So I went back to help her kind of like get things together. And then we ended up remodeling her kitchen. So I was there for that. But when I moved out again after that, she literally took my copy of Out Cold and hid it so that she could have a copy. And I was like tearing the house apart. I finally found it in her room and I was like, Linda, like holding up like contraband, being like, what is this? And she's like, what? And I was like, what are you doing? Like, why is this in here? And she's like, I wanted a copy. I'm like, I will buy you a copy. Don't hide my shit. Like, it's fine. You can keep it. Just tell me I need to buy a new copy. But she loves that movie. I actually came home one time and she had already like it was in the DVD player. Like she had already been watching it. And I was like, you're my mom. Like, of course.
That is an awesome story. This is why I like this concept of the show, because you find really cool things about people that you didn't really know. And we're gonna move on to the next movie. And that's a movie that came out the year I was born. And it's probably one of my favorite outside of like Rocky and outside of like some of Rambo. This is probably one of my favorite movies because this is really the first iteration of Real Steel. There's people that don't get that reference, and I'm so glad that you do.
First of all, go see Real Steel. It's not that bad.
Real Steel's great. But Over the Top. This movie came out in 87. I found an affinity for this film because I just genuinely like the story. It's generally really good. It's probably one of my third or fourth favorite Sylvester Stallone movies. So tell us, how did you see Over the Top?
Again, this is a movie that my dad introduced to me. My dad, I don't know how much y'all have like cyber stalked me, but my dad looked just like Stallone growing up. Like, hold on, I don't know how. Like, can you see that?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
That's my dad at like. This is my dad at like 30. Like he's younger than me in this photo. And he would always get stopped and be like, my guy friends all called him Sly. Like that was just my dad. And so my dad again, a big tough guy. So like when the 80s and 90s rolled around and they were, all of Stallone and Schwarzenegger movies, he was like constantly like watching them on his days off. And so I just remember growing up with this. And my dad wanted boys and he got 3 girls. So boys, watch out. Karma does exist. But I remember watching this like so many times as a child. And like my sisters and I would all like try and arm wrestle each other and we'd like snap the thumb and like bring it down and turn the hat. And it was, I love this movie. I love this movie. It's just
there's so much about this movie to love about this movie, because from just the arm wrestling aspect of it, and then having I want to say Michael,
his son.
Is it Michael?
It's Mike.
Mike. Yes. I was right. I just want to make sure I was right. I didn't want to sound stupid. But like having like he's got the greatest arc ever. Like he goes from
He's
this.
such a shit.
He is a shit in the beginning of the movie, like a royal shit, but then
Oh,
has one of the greatest arcs and actually forms a relationship with Stallone. And I think it's like it's very much parallel to if you've seen Real Steel, go watch this movie. You if you like Real Steel, you'll like this movie.
yes,
Uh,
it's very similar in that father son aspect. Excuse me. But I mean, and I say this because I've always thought this, but I have always wanted to punch that character right in the fucking throat. Oh, he's so annoying. So basically, if you guys haven't seen Real Steel or Over the Top, the concept is the father is kind of this roughneck fighter, and then the mother is like this socialite, well-to-do, and of course, like you know, the rich girl loves the boy from the wrong side of the tracks. They fall in love, and oh, of course, she gets pregnant. Her daddy doesn't want them to be together, so he makes them split up. And so, over the course of time, the little boy thinks that his dad's a deadbeat because his grandfather's been telling him that his dad is a deadbeat, and it's just whatever. So they end up having to spend time together, and the kid gets to see what his dad is really like, and then obviously they form this, amazing relationship and go on and right off into the sunset in whatever kind of truck they drive.
it's always a truck. It's always got to
always
be
a truck.
It's got to be a truck.
But I just this movie brings back memories of when I was like 7 or 8. My dad was really into fitness, and like he would lift weights and everything. Like he was in really really good shape. Like he was like a step down from a bodybuilder because he wasn't that insane. But like he was a big guy, and I remember like we would watch this and we would both like be like laying on our stomachs in the living room while watching this at like the last scene, and like have our elbows on pillows and like our hats facing forward, and like I would switch mine around and like beat him and he'd let me, and like this is just full of amazing childhood memories. The movie isn't the best. It's fun and insane and ridiculous, but it's like it's that sentimental attachment. Me and my dad, I watched that movie. Like it gets to me every time.
Nah, absolutely. I definitely understand that. Now going over the same question that we went over before. What has been your favorite kind of introducing somebody to this film? Like,
I don't think I've actually shown this to a lot of people just because like it was like it's not a movie that people have seen because it's not one of the big Stallone movies. Like people have seen Daylight before they've seen this one.
yikes.
Which is just the saddest thing ever. But like it's one of his lesser known ones. It happened it was like the flop around after Rocky happened, like after that whole thing happened, like it was just like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go off and make this movie, and like it just and like I don't know, I think this is a movie that I don't end up showing people unless like this is the movie like and because my dad has passed away, this is a movie that I will show a guy that I'm dating and be like, this is my dad. Like this is something incredibly personal, but I want you to understand why I love this movie. And like if he knows me and he knows my dad, like through what I've told him about him, he'll love the movie too. It's one of those like litmus test kind of things.
100%. I have that. So I definitely understand that there's movies that I show people like, if you don't like this, I don't know if we can gel.
Right.
Not don't like it. Like if you can't appreciate the reasons that I like it, then I don't think we can gel.
Exactly.
But no, I think that's really cool. Like you have something that you shared with your dad, and you made it a part of your life essentially. I think that's something that a lot of people have. There's other versions of it. People show music, people show food, there's stuff like that. I think it's incredible that you have a movie from the 80s that you share with your dad, and it's great. Because sure, you could show Rambo or Rocky, but this is kind of more a lesser known film, and it's like, no, sit down and watch with me. I think that's great. You talked about the ending, which is phenomenal. What's maybe one of your favorite quieter scenes in this movie?
I love the scene. So he basically goes and picks him up from military school, whatever, to like bring him home at his mother's request, who is like dying of cancer. And instead of being like flown home, I think they're going from like Connecticut to California. And so instead of, being picked up by his grandfather's chauffeur to take him to the airport so he can fly home, his mom requested that his dad pick him up and that they drive cross country so that her son can get to know his father. And then when they're driving cross country, and they call in to check in on her, and they find out that she's died, and the kid gets rightfully pissed off and is just like, I didn't get to say goodbye to her. I could have been there. And like the way that they handle that scene is so good and so masterfully done that you're like, wait a minute, was I watching like a Stallone movie? Like, this is really good right now. But that scene always gets me. It's just that. And a lot of movies touch on that too. And every time it happens, I am a puddle of tears. But it's that not being able to say goodbye. And that is an awful, terrible feeling. And that's something you live with for a very long time. And I love that. I think that's the best scene of the entire movie.
Yeah. I think that's probably one of the most. It's kind of a hard scene to watch, but I think it was well directed and well kind of acted. You felt those emotions. I very much I enjoyed that little bit of it was a little side note of a conversation, and it was great because, like I said, this is what the show's about. It's about getting to know the person, and I don't think a lot of people probably knew that about you, and it's kind of nice to hear. So I think that's really cool that you shared that with us, and I appreciate that. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's move on to the next movie. A little lighter note, it is The Emperor's New Groove.
The best Disney movie ever.
I might have to argue with that with you a little bit later. We'll do that later. This is your list. So this is your 5 films that is your personality. That personally represent you. So The Emperor's New Groove. This was a 2000, 2001, 99. I'm trying to remember. Movie release date. Yes.
2001. Everybody knows I'm crap at movie release dates. That is not a secret.
2000.
2000.
I won.
There's a lot of my favorites are from the 2000s.
Yeah, you have the 180 and the one past that, and then 98 is one that we haven't talked about yet, but I think it's like 98, 97, but we'll get there. We'll get there, guys. Don't worry. Emperor's New Groove. This movie is fantastic. As a fan of King Midas, and like those kind of storylines, the Emperor's New Clothes and everything like that. I've always loved those kind of stories, and to see Disney reimagine it as we're gonna give you a talking llama, guys. Let's see how that works for you.
I'm not joking. There's actually a llama on top of my. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, I constantly have a llama overlooking me.
But we're gonna go ahead and give it to you with David Spade. Go ahead and taking the role. I think this was genius. This movie's incredible. I do like this movie a lot. So going over the questions again. Who introduced this movie to you? Did you find it at a screener, or did you get introduced to it?
I was working at the movie theater, and I remember watching the previews for this, like the trailers for this, over and over, just because like you work in a movie theater and you have to go check in on movies and like make sure that everything's fine. And so I remember watching this trailer so many times and being like, I have to watch this. And so I got me, my sister's best friend, and a friend of mine from high school, 4 tickets. We got there super early and like blocked off our seats, went and got our free popcorn because we worked there. And it was a packed house on a Friday night in the biggest theater that we had. And it's not a podunk town. Like Saratoga is a big city. But it's almost as big as one of the biggest ones here in LA. Like it's at least a 400 seater. Like it's a big theater. And it was sold out. People were crying, laughing. And I just remember at this one point, because I'm just going to jump ahead and assume that you're going to ask me what my favorite thing is about it.
Yeah.
Because I figured, like, there's no moment that trumps this for me showing somebody, but I figured since I invited her, I'm showing it to her. There's the scene after they come out of the river and Pacha has made the fire and like kept them safe or whatever, and like gave Cusco his blanket or his poncho for a blanket. And the next morning, they're sitting there side by side at the edge of this river, just kind of like talking and being like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. Like trying to be tough guys, like not trying to say like thank you or anything. And it gets silent. And this frog jumps in scene onto a lily pad and just ribbits. My friend just goes, frog! And we start crying, laughing. Because we have this whole thing where, like, if you say something stupid, you either scratch the record or we would say crickets. Because, like, in every other movie, like, if you said something stupid, like, if it was at a party, there would be a record scratch. Everybody would stop and their heads would turn. Versus if you were doing this, like, out in nature or whatever, you would say something stupid, you wouldn't hear anything except for the sound of crickets. So she screams out frog in a packed house. She and I are the only ones laughing, and we are, like, dying laughing at this. And my sister's like, stop it. I'm like, I can't, it's a frog. Like, we were like 15 and 16 years old. It's like the most annoying time, like, in a person's life. Like, that's when you're excused for being stupid and annoying, because that's just when you're supposed to be stupid and annoying. And we were dying, like, to this day, it cracks me up every time. And it's just one of those, like, inside moments that just, like, it kills me every single time.
Nice. I enjoy those. So me and my friends like sometimes have games like that where we'll bust each other for saying something stupid, and I think that's probably one of the best versions of that game I've ever heard. You've just invited a bunch of people to, to shout that at you during matches. Just saying.
Done.
If they catch it.
I mean, if somebody had shouted out frog when I had said Andre 2000, I would have been like, oh, I just said something stupid, because I completely didn't even realize that I gave the wrong answer. Anyway, no, this movie is like out cold. I can quote this movie in my sleep. I actually tweeted out something right around Christmas, and I tagged. Oh, I was saying how underrated this movie is and how it's like the gem of Disney and it's like the best movie they've ever made. And I tagged David Spade and Patrick Warburton in it. And then I woke up. I'm not even joking. Like, this was like a Christmas miracle. I woke up on Christmas morning to like both of them having liked it. And I was like, Mom! I was so happy.
They like my tweet. They like me. They really like me.
First of all, this cast is so epic. It is David Spade, Patrick Warburton, John Goodman, and Eartha Kitt. Like, Eartha Kitt is Yzma. I am so convinced. Like, she didn't have to act or anything. She just showed up and started recording the lines just the way that she would speak. They designed Yzma after her. Like, nobody has those cheekbones except for Eartha Kitt. Yeah. And she's a legend. Also,
Yeah,
this
no.
is one of the movies that like I love how kind of small it is, and like there's not 1,000 characters. There's no singing numbers aside from the happy birthday number, which is hilarious. But it's a very small movie with like really young appeal. Like Yzma is so she's not terrifying in a way that like Cruella de Vil is, you know?
Yeah.
Like
She's
like
more
there's
terrifying than Holes.
yes. Uh, but she does this whole thing where, she's describing how she's gonna kill Cusco, and she's like, our hour of moment approaches, it's dinner time. And I'm like, that is a 5-year-old. Like, that's amazing. That's so great. Like, you're threatening to kill somebody, but yet you're making like a 3-year-old laugh because she's just that. Like, she is a living cartoon. And I just absolutely love that about the movie. Plus, it
Yeah,
has a really good story behind it. So
it does. It's like I said, I do genuinely like this movie a lot. I don't think it's my favorite Disney movie, but you heard my list beforehand, and you probably know which my favorite Disney movie is.
it's
Um,
okay. It doesn't have to be everyone's favorite. It is my version of the best Disney movie ever.
exactly. That's what I like about hearing people's different takes on it. The Emperor New Groove is definitely a great movie, though. I do find heart and levity in the entire movie. Maybe David Spade's almost best work next to like when he's working with Chris Farley. It's probably his best work next to that.
I would agree to that.
Him and John Goodman have some great chemistry. I wonder what they would do in live action. Just saying.
I love the fact that everybody who is cast is basically their character in real life.
Absolutely.
I find that kind of amazing. I also just love the fact that like every Disney movie is, trying to tell like it's very Aesop's fable-ish. It's trying to get a story across, and like not just a story, but like, like a message and a lesson across to kids. And I think that this one has a really good one and a really strong one that no matter how old you are, you're going to pick up on it. And that's your actions have consequences. Like, you don't just live your life doing what's best for you. Sometimes what's best for you is what's best for people. And that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with that sentiment. I mean, on a more personal level for me, that's like I think we need more of in this world because like a lot of people don't pay attention to that.
A lot of people don't pay attention.
That's true. A lot of people don't pay attention. Man,
But
we went through this list pretty quick. It was a lot quicker than I thought it was going to be.
oh wait, but Malcolm just saw this movie this year. I want to hear what Malcolm's
Yeah,
thoughts are
Malcolm,
on this
what
one.
did you
You've
think of
been
this
very
movie?
quiet.
Well, I mean, this is one that I watched because we were doing the Disney Villains Rankum episode. And and I actually realized when I had watched it that I actually had seen it when it first came out. I just completely forgot all about it. And I really enjoyed it, because I know immediately after this I watched the sequel, which I didn't enjoy just as much. But I thought this was great.
The
Yeah.
TV show is pretty good. I like the TV show too.
And Kronk's New Groove is pretty funny. I mean, it's not on the same level, but like anytime you try and recreate that, it's just not going to work. But
Yeah.
again, this is the movie that I will endlessly quote. Like, legit, if I wake up feeling like, everybody has those mornings where they look up and you're like, you wake up and you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, what is that? Like, I will literally be like, mama face. It's so good. Or like, I literally I remember I bumped my head one time and my sister went to check on me and I was like, you're very pretty. Your wife is very pretty. You're both very pretty. like
See this?
or the spinach puffs or anything. Like, it's just
I
so
want to binge with
wonderfully.
Babish to make spinach puffs. Yeah.
What?
Binging with Babish. I want him to make spinach puffs. I
Oh,
want to see his take on spinach puffs.
100%. Oh, it's so easy. I'll get you the recipe.
Cool. I'll take it. I'll take the recipe. No,
Another example of quoting the movie and somebody completely not knowing what I'm talking about. See, I just started laughing. I was like, oh, it's so easy. I'll give you the recipe. And you're like, yep, okay, cool. And I was like, no, okay, cool.
I missed the reference. Yes, I got the joke. That's what we call a callback. People,
Yeah, bringing it back.
bringing it back around. All right. So we're on your final film of your 5 personal, things that represent you.
I know that people are going to be incredibly shocked as to what it is not. And I will say that there is a movie that was at a very close 6 that we will talk about after this.
Absolutely.
But yes, what is my 5?
Your 5 is My Best Friend's Wedding.
Yes.
Let's start off with this. I had a very similar pact in play with a friend of mine, and then she got married, and now I'm just sitting here twiddling my thumbs.
I think we all did. Mine was at 40, though. I will say this: my pact was for 40 and not 28. If you are giving yourself until 28 and giving up at 28, baby, no, hold off. We're living so much longer. Give yourself until at least 40, because honestly, you don't really get to know yourself until your 30s anyway. So just wait, just make that deal until 40. Don't tie yourself down at 28. That sounds awful.
So let's get into the question. Who introduced you to this movie, or did you catch it while you were
I was not working at the movie theater. I honestly can't remember who introduced this to me, because it did come out I want to say 96, which means I would have been in 6th or 7th grade. But I just remember watching this and being like it is not one of my favorite movies. I will say this. This is a movie that I feel so incredibly deep down in my soul that even I literally rewatched it the other day and I was like, nope, yeah, I'm still her. That's still me, just minus the pettiness now. But it's just it's so it is 100% me. I have focused on my career. I haven't really dated or been in relationships in a very long time. And it was just one friend who I had the pact with, and he's super happily relationshiped up with this wonderful woman, and I'm like, really, you had to ruin it? Come on. I'm like, okay, fine, I love that you're happy.
had the pact.
Right. But it wasn't that's the thing though, is that the pact was, if we find ourselves single, we like each other enough to be able to marry each other and live with each other for the rest of our lives. But he found somebody that he loves, to the core of him. And I'm like, happy for you. Bitter, but happy for you. I love you. It's fine. But yeah, that whole movie, and I mean, actually going back and watching it, now that I'm in my mid-30s, it's so you watch that movie now and I'm just like, what is happening here? He is 28, marrying a 20-year-old. First of all, if you're over 21, unless they're 6 months away from turning 21 too, don't date them. Wait until they're 21. You just started getting to go out to bars. Honestly, if I can't legally buy you a drink, I have no place dating you. That's just
100%
too young. So he's 28. He has this job that has him traveling all over the US for. He meets this girl who is a junior in college, I believe, whose dad owns the White Sox. First of all, why White Sox and not Cubs? And just you're not a whole person at 20. You're not. You might be an awesome person at 20. I was great at 20.
I'm 32 and I'm still not a whole person. I'm just saying. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Exactly. Nobody is. Like when you're 20, you're 20. Like you are a number. You're not a person. Like you can be amazing and have some fantastic insights, but like very, very, very few 20-year-olds, can hold a massively intellectual conversation or get into a serious discussion and not lose their minds, get emotional, get angry, which is an emotion, but still, like you haven't seen things at that point. You haven't experienced usually your first true heartbreak. You haven't experienced true loss. You haven't felt a joy that has stopped your heart. Like there's so many things that like you have yet to experience that I'm like, you're 20, you can't drink, you're an heiress, and you're marrying this guy that lives out of a suitcase and is basically a child himself.
True.
But yet
he is not the greatest of characters.
No, he's not. I mean, I understand him 100% because like 85% of my friends are guys, but like I am very much Julia Roberts' character in that. I'm just like, I've been everywhere, I've seen everything. I mean, it's horrible because it's so cliche, but my best friend is, a fabulous gay man. Like, it's just who poses as her fiance. Like, okay, we're treading on some very delicate waters at this point.
You're slowly skidding across the ice.
Yes, but it's just one of those movies. It's like, as ridiculous as it is, like I don't know, I feel it. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool. You're not that girl. You're not his girl. You're someone's, but it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, she does kind of realize that. So that's a kind of positive note,
Yeah.
I think this movie was a very interesting pick. I think this is probably one of your most personal picks when it comes down to it of who you are, like how you feel about certain situations. I think that's what that comes down to. And I think it's pretty great that, like I said, I appreciate the complete openness. There's some people that are going to not do that. They're going to pick movies that are very kind of like safe. And you kind of went with the ones that were actually really personal with you, which I can't thank you enough for. Not even just for the content, because I like to genuinely get to know people, and like sometimes this is the best way to get to know a person. You give me 5 movies, I can probably tell you who you are. You give me 5 albums, I can probably tell you who you are. And the points that you get to know them throughout their lives. So my
music choices would be completely different.
Mine too. Mine are a little all over the place though. Like we could talk about that. Now you said God.
Well, I mean, what I also love about this is that like I am a hopeless romantic. I'm in that. Like I am a massive cynic, but I am a hopeless romantic. There is a very thick, very hard candy-coated shell of cynicism and bitterness around a very soft, mushy, hopeless romantic heart of me. But no, I mean, I had to pick a rom-com at some point, and I was like, I was considering, 27 Dresses, but I was like, no, this movie is me. My best friend's wedding is me. Like that's fine.
No, I think it's perfect. I think it was a perfect way to end the show because we actually got a very good insight. If any of you were actually paying attention, we got a very good insight who Rachel is, and it's great. Like I said, I love these things. Now, you said you had an honorable mention. Was that 27 Dresses, or what was the honorable mention?
My very, very, very close 6th pick is Dogma.
Oh, listen! You heard my 5. You heard my 5. It is my favorite Kevin Smith movie of all time. Okay, I'm not gonna.
And that's what I was saying. That people are going to be very shocked. Well, my 5th one is not. Kevin Smith, as everyone knows, is my favorite director. I love that man like nobody's business in a massively platonic way. I just appreciate everything that he's done for cinema and everything else. But Dogma, it sounds so corny, but when it came out, I was going through a really rough time in my life, and I grew up religious. Like I grew up being taken to church every Sunday. I was also the kid that made a deal with my parents that as soon as I went through confirmation, it was up to me how my relationship with God was going to be. And if I wanted to go to church, I would. And if I didn't want to, that was up to me. And they didn't get to give me any slack for it. And then my parents divorced right around 97. And that's like, I was 13 at the time. So like, that's a really important age to like, you're discovering relationships and going through all that. And then your parents break up and it's very emotional and it will affect you forever. And a lot of people are going, oh, that explains so much. But this movie came out and it very much like embodied my beliefs in religion and God. And it all boils down to that one monologue that that Serendipity has at the strip club about how no faith has nailed it. Your hearts are in the right place, but your mind's got to wake up. It's like it's good that you have faith, but like you don't. And like the whole thing with what Rufus says later on about having beliefs or ideas, and a belief is hard to change, but an idea you can change, but a belief is harder. A belief is something that, you know, you live by, and like that's harder to change. And so like it sounds so ridiculous, but like it just, everything that I wanted to say to my parents about religion, I literally was like, you need to watch this movie. And my dad was like, I'm not watching the Kevin Smith movie. I'm like, you're gonna watch this movie. And he loved it because it's a wonderful, wonderful film, but like he got it, like he understood. Took my mom a little while because she was we were raised Lutheran, and so it's like Catholic light. So she was
Diet Catholic, please.
She was not too pleased at the very beginning when George Carlin was playing the cardinal.
Made a lot of people mood. Made a lot of people mad.
And plus that movie, I mean, it's so great because Kevin Smith got interviewed at a protest for the movie of Dogma, and he was. Have you not seen this?
I haven't. I've been meaning to check out this stuff because like I heard it on the Jay and Silent reboot, like extra stuff, and I was like, really? It was that bad? Oh man, I need to check it out.
Yeah. Yeah, he went out. People were protesting in New Jersey, in his hometown, and so he went out to go see what it was like in person. Oh yes, Malcolm, if Kevin Smith ever joins the Schmodown, he is 100% coming to the den. Yeah, like I will go battle royale on everyone, and he will be mine. Be on my team. But yeah, it's such a good movie, and it takes something that so many people just hold so staunchly true and like don't question it, and it just turns it on its head a little bit. I mean, it's, you know, talks about how you know, Jesus was black, and Jay has the best line after it. I don't buy it. Like it's so funny. It's so perfectly done. And then how Rufus is the 13th apostle, but he got left out because he's black, which is fine. There's 12 other white guys you can pick from. And like
one of my favorite characters in the movie.
I mean, there's no bad character in that movie.
There isn't.
Like it's just so good. And I mean, you can't Bartleby and Loki.
Yes.
Like and the whole thing that like at the time when it came out, everybody, like there were massive rumors swirling about Ben and Matt being like a closeted gay couple.
I remember those rumors.
And then they address it on the train. He's like, oh, you think we're lovers? No. It's like, do I give off that vibe? Do I come across as gay? Like, And so I just like that's one of those jokes that like people laugh at now who don't remember that. But like I remember when that movie came out and people were dying laughing because that was what it was. Like they were playing up into that joke that people thought that Ben and Matt were gay together, like secretly.
Also, Alan Rickman in this movie is great. Because I think this was about the same time as Galaxy Quest.
Oh, this is my second favorite role of his.
Yeah.
I mean, I hold the role of Galaxy Quest and this one above Snape, and I don't care who's coming for me after it. Like, he's amazing.
Do not at
Snape.
her
yes.
for her opinions.
No, it's fine. You can come at me, but I mean,
I'm actually the same.
We're talking like 1, 2, and 3. Like they're that close. There's not a lot separating them. But
some people might come at you about the whole Die Hard thing before that, but
that's true. But like Alan Rickman as the Metatron is just so perfect because of course the voice that God chooses is going to be a droll Englishman. Oh my God. If God was ever going to talk to me, it either needs to be RuPaul or Alan Rickman. Like, that's just it. Or Betty White. But yeah. No, every word, every line that comes out of his mouth is just so perfect. Like, you drench everyone in fire retardant chemicals. No wonder you're single. Like, of course. It's just so good.
I can't drink. And he spits out tequila.
Hence all the spitting. It's just perfect.
I agree. That movie, I still think you went with the right choice. I do think you did go with the right choice. Dogma is, as the people on this panel right now know, one of my favorite Kevin Smith movies of all time. This movie means a lot to me. This movie actually kind of like very much based on my religious beliefs. It literally turned me kind of like into an agnostic kind of person.
Yeah.
And it's literally because of the line that he wrote where beliefs are wars fought over beliefs. Have ideas. Paraphrasing, of course, but that's the paraphrase. But Rachel, it was amazing to have you on here. I loved it. This was great. I really enjoy it. I hope more people. In 2 weeks, we have Andrew DeMolanta on the show, which is going to be really awesome. He reached out. I've been trying to get your tag team partner to reach out. I shot him a Twitter thing. Sweet. Yeah, I got it. Listen, I've been back in the bandit since the beginning. No, but it's been great. First,
proud of him.
Malcolm. Yeah, it was great. His match was awesome. But Malcolm, where can the people find you?
You can find me on Take 3 Productions hosting Rankum every Saturday night. And this week's will be sci-fi movies from the 90s. And a late night this week is going to be a spring movie preview where we talk about movies coming out in March, April, and May. And you can find me all over the place. I'm Formula Trivia, hosting Formula Random, and competing in the fan leagues all over the place.
Awesome. Rachel, we know where we can find you, but why don't you tell the people just in case they don't know as well? I am backing you and Ben, just giving you a heads up for that team match. But
Butcher Boys are going to be decimated, eviscerated.
I can't wait. But tell the people where they can find you. I'm really excited. And thank you again for being a part of this.
You are more than welcome. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at RM Silvestrini. It's RM as in Mary, Silvestrini. It's right there. You will see me interacting on Facebook in all the groups, on all the pages. But just so you know, if you send me a friend request and we haven't met in real life, I will not approve because I might keep my Facebook a little more personal for that. Not like we didn't get personal here, but who cares?
No, we didn't get personal at all.
I'm just talking about my dad's death, my parents' divorce. It's totally fine.
It's fine. We loved it here. And you can find me at Douglas_Castle on Twitter. I'm over here on Take 3 with The Manor. You've just been watching it for an hour and 14 minutes. If you don't get the concept by now, we have personalities from the Schmodown, hopefully continuing going in. Personalities from the different reactors, cast and crew for everything. I want to get everybody in here because I want to get as personal and get stories because I like stuff like this. Getting to know people is awesome. Guys, let's be honest. It's been The Manor. Go out and be nice to one another because really, who's it hurting?